Alright, I told somebody on Facebook, Zoe Kent, that I would make a video on how I did my bioactive enclosure for my Pac-Man frog. So basically, the first thing that I started with, because you got to have your bottom layer, needs to be like a water barrier, or a place for the water to settle when you have excess water in there. I started with, this is just a black lava rock decoration. You can get at Lowe's, Home Depot. Bought a bag of it. It's not very expensive. I think this bag cost me $6. And I rinsed the rock off, and I made a bottom layer. Let me go ahead and actually open this right here as my bioactive enclosure. I used it's an old mini fridge where I cut the door out and put plexiglass right here. Build them out of any other material you want. But I've got this right here. You can't really see it, but in the bottom layer here, there's like lava rock. And then after your lava rock, you need some kind of barrier in between your lava rock or hydro balls or whatever you use at the bottom. There's a lot actually out there you can use, but whatever you use at the bottom, you need a barrier on top of that before you get to your substrate. So right here is just the basic fabric that you put in gardens, like to keep the weeds from growing up. That's what I have on top of my water level. Now something else you want to do, you don't have to do, but you can build excess water up down there, which I haven't had a problem with yet, but from my research shows that you can build up excess water. So you want to take a Gatorade bottle or something like that, cut the top off of it, and find a spot maybe in the back corner, right there, and put it all the way to the bottom, and to where you can take this lid off, and down in there you can see the very, very bottom. That way if you get water buildup, you can actually use that as an access point to remove the water. So there's that, and then once you put your barrier on top, it's always good to have some active charcoal in there too. It helps control the mold. But for your substrate, there's many different, like a compost mixture you can get, but the base for your substrate, I recommend using this Eco Earth loose coconut fiber. It's supposed to have like some kind of like antacids or acids or whatever to also help with mold, and it's a good substrate and replace the dirt. Now, where'd that block go? And also, this moss that I have around here, I've got it pretty much all over the place. It's a good loose moss. It's forest moss. I bought a 2-pack compressed brick real cheap on Amazon. Here's a partial brick right here actually. Can't remember. Okay, each brick comes out to 7 quarts. It's a real nice moss that holds real good humidity and moisture on top of the substrate. You can mix some of it into the substrate. Now for your walls, Pac-Man frogs, which is what this guy's right here, and this is his enclosure. They're not arboreal or anything, but for the full effect of the bioactive enclosure, I still did the walls. You get the great stuff expanding foam. I got the pond and stone version, so it's got that kind of rocky color. And you'll take like a biodegradable flower pod and put it up against the wall, and then foam around it, and let that foam form around your biodegradable pod. You can use the square ones, big round ones, just depends on what you're planting. And that way you can get your plants on the wall. Like I have this right here. There's a row of biodegradable pods on the back. There's a big biodegradable pod behind this. And if you don't get the pond and stone, or if you just even don't want this showing, what you do is you get your caulk. You can get an aquarium sealant, or as long as it's a M1 caulk, it'll be safe for the reptile. But you take it after your foam dries out and cures, you take your caulk, make a thin layer, take some of that loose coconut fiber, some moss, some sphagnum moss, whatever, Spanish moss, this Spanish moss right here, and you just stick it to it and it covered it up and hide it. Let's see here. Make sure you use your reptile safe plants. And then, like, I've got a couple that apparently can't handle the heat and humidity that's in here, and I've killed them. But the good thing is once they die, I can dry them out and use them for leaf litter. Because you do want a leaf litter to kind of help for the animal to hide. Just your different mosses for humidity. This is a pillow moss right here. I really like this pillow moss, along with really liking this forest moss. I actually like it better than the sphagnum moss. The Spanish moss is kind of cool to kind of let sag down. It's a real long, skinny moss. Let's see. And as far as lighting, I've got, this is actually just an aquarium thing, and I've got these two. They're 5.0 UVBs, but they're not a hard wattage. They don't put out a real bright light. Like, I've got one on a tortoise that's 5.0, and it's the squirrely kind, and it puts out just immense light and heat, and it's really unnecessary for this enclosure. Now, once you've done all that, and I know I'm going kind of quick for this video, if you have any questions, feel free to comment or ask me, and I'll be more than happy to answer them. This is actually not on. I only have to kick it on when it gets real cold, like in the house and stuff, and I only kick it on for a few minutes usually because I got this sealed pretty good. Which brings me to the next thing. You do not want it to just permanently hold the same air all the time. I do open this up a little bit, let it swap out air. But also, if you look in the back, you see that screen right there? Okay. That screen, you come around here, like I said, this used to be a mini fridge. Well, this was the holes in the back. Let's see if I can get some light here so you can see it. Yeah, these holes in the back where there's plumbing. And I just screened it so I could allow those holes to kind of help with the ventilation to give me some ventilation. Plus, like I said, I'll open up this door some, let the air swap out and everything. It's a little more maintenance. A couple other things you do, like on the side. This is actually a log reptile hide that I turned up, and I actually filled it with dirt, and I can plant stuff in it. Plant plants and vines or anything. This, you can get like a cork bark. Get that out of the way there. You can get like a cork bark or anything and put it on the side with that foam. And I got some over here. But get it, and it's really not that hard. You got your bottom water layer, your barrier, your substrate. You want to put some kind of like active carbon in there to kind of help out. And this forest moss across the bottom I find is real nice. It's like a, you know, it kind of actually does the same purpose as a leaf litter does too. And your pillow moss is really nice. Pillow moss actually kind of helps make a hide. This guy actually kind of moved this on him, but he's actually moved down in there, and he's actually gone under the pillow moss. It makes a good little like chunk, and it greens up really nice, so, and holds really good moisture in there. Honestly, with this setup, I can spray it, and it would hold, if I even opening the door once or twice a day, it would still hold close to 50% humidity for a week or more. That's why I open the door, let it air out, respray it with fresh misting. Better for, you know, the fresh, so nothing gets stagnant. Now the water bowl, I've been told it's the same with pixie frogs, but I know for a fact with Pac-Man frogs, you do not want it any deeper than the half their body height, because they will drown in it. But if you keep your cage humid enough, you don't have to have a water bowl for a Pac-Man frog. I still have one in here, and actually, honestly, the way this cage is set up, he probably wouldn't have to have one. But he'll get in it every now and again, kind of wash this dirt off of him, so it's kind of nice to keep it. Now your cleanup crew, I think I saw, yeah. Your cleanup crew for it, you can't really see any on the camera, I don't think. But anyways, your cleanup crew, you can just use your springtails and your isopods. So you can get those. There's like quite a few sites like Josh's Frogs you can get them from. And then I think that pretty much covers it. Your heating is going to depend, of course, on your animal and your house temperature and what you use for the box part too. This, like I said, it used to be a mini fridge, so it's insulated, so it holds heat a lot. Usually, actually, these UV lights alone are enough to keep this enclosure at like 80 degrees almost. So usually, unless it gets really cold in my house, which it does sometimes. Let's see, I'm trying to think what else. Okay, if you don't have like a mini fridge or something like I did, where I literally just adhered the walls to the structure box itself, and you want to use an aquarium or a tote or whatever it is you're using, and you don't want to permanently adhere those walls to it, what you can do is you can go out and get some kind of sheeting that is waterproof, like maybe that plastic cardboard material, and adhere everything to it, cut it to size and adhere everything to it, to where you can caulk it to the side of whatever box and structure you're using. That way, if you change your mind later on, you can just pull it out and maybe put it in something else or whatever. But with this setup, said you won't have to, with your forest moss, like I said, I recommend using the forest moss. I haven't seen anybody else really using it. They've just been mainly only using leaf litter on top of the substrate. But I tell you what, I bought it, used it, was able to get these couple bricks set up, and I really love the forest moss. And like I said, change your moss. You can get you different mosses, different plants, yeah. And you don't want, I know I've said this once already, but you do not want a real hard UV bulb. This one, it's like that mini compact fluorescent is what I think they call it. It's good. I could probably actually take one of those out, to be honest with you. I just have two in there because it creates a more even lighting, and the animal still has areas where he can get out of the direct light when he wants to. He has a little dip down there where he can hide. Yeah, do not get... Actually, I'll show you here real quick. Okay, there's my Russian tortoise. This is the UV light I have on him, and it's the same 5.0. It's just a different brand, and if you see, instead of it being like that mini compact fluorescent, it's the swirly one that, forgive me, I forget what the actual call it. It burns a lot brighter, even though it's the same wattage, same UVB. It burns a lot brighter, and it actually gets a lot warmer. I put that UVB in here, and it actually gets too hot. And it's really too bright, and it will probably kill off some of your plants if they're not direct sun plants. And like I said, just make sure you use reptile safe plants. You can easily Google that list, because I don't know it on the top of my head. And then I have my Pac-Man frog here. I tongue feed him now. He wouldn't tongue feed at first, but I tongue feed him now. He's in here. He moves around and does great. So that is how I made my bioactive enclosure. And you can look at a lot of different videos on YouTube. Just search it on YouTube. There'll be a lot of different ones. I'm not the only one that uses the lava rock and the eco earth, and there's some places that sell an actual substrate that's already bioactive and decomposing, whatever they want to call it, composting kind of substrate that's already going to help eat some of your poops and stuff. But this is large enough and my animal's small enough too that my cleanup crew of springtails and isopods really does a perfectly fine job at that. I actually got a really good presence of springtails in here, and it's still growing, and I still see the isopods sometimes, but I don't see them nearly as much. So hopefully you like this video, and hopefully this answers any questions you had, Zoe. And if you have any more questions, anybody, feel free to comment, ask me, whatever, and I will do my best to answer them or find somebody that maybe knows the answer. And yeah, it's as simple as that. So feel free to subscribe, like, comment, and have a great day.